Hi there, it's yet another week and another opportunity to talk about nutrition. Remember last time I said we'll take a life cycle approach, meaning we're starting from the beginning of life. And so today, now the baby is born, let's assume we now have a bouncing baby boy or girl. How are we supposed to take care or feed this child? Because now it is not the child getting food from what the mother eats directly. The caregivers of the child need to take that deliberate effort to feed the child. And I want us to talk about breastfeeding specifically. So I feel breastfeeding is one of those decisions that we women, and not only the woman breastfeeding, but the entire community around her needs to take to protect the health of this child. And breastfeeding it's hard. I'll be honest with you, it is not an easy journey. We talk about it, yes, because it's something that is good, but I don't think we discuss the challenges around breastfeeding enough. For those who have breastfed their children, kudos to you. It is one of those difficult decisions that family has to make, and especially the woman who has to produce this milk for this child, who has to be with the child all the time to make sure that they're getting their nutrition. But it is something that is worth it. First and foremost, breastfeeding in Zambia has gone down. We were at 73% exclusive breastfeeding, meaning from 0 to 6 months of age, that is all that a child should consume, only breast milk. But then from 73% of children who are exclusively breastfed from 0 to 6 months to 63% in 2024 of babies who are exclusively breastfed. What challenges out there are you facing in expressing, or rather in breastfeeding your babies? Let's see how we can help each other to see to it that these children are well fed. Because from 0 to 6 months, it's a critical time in a child's life. Mind you, the child is now born. What food do you give? Especially nowadays that a lot of us women are out there working, hustling, looking for ways to survive. In the same way, we need to also think of now this newborn baby who needs to feed. And oftentimes we want to take the easy way out, give formula, start giving porridge at an early age, and we tend to forget about this important decision that can change this child's life, and that is breastfeeding. It is not easy, but it is doable. Now, what are the benefits of breastfeeding? Like, what's with the fuss? You may be asking, but why not just give formula? My child grew up on formula and they turned out just fine. Well, yes, they may have turned out just fine, but there are a number of other things they may have missed from breast milk, including, for example, the fact that they tend to bond with the mother more during breastfeeding. It's a very important stage for bonding. The child does not need to feel they are alone. The smell that you, the mother, produces in that time can only be picked by your baby. That is why even when the child will just hear your voice or see you, or maybe just you walking into the room, they know that mom is around the corner and they calm down. And so breastfeeding is one way of doing that. It helps the child feel safe and feel protected. And a number of studies now are showing that children who have, for example, attention deficit disorder and all these other new problems or conditions that are arising in our young children could be because of lack of breastfeeding, where the mother had to detach from the child maybe too early in the child's life. If the child now has to rely on formula, and so that bonding with the child doesn't happen, and the child's safety is compromised, because mind you, you were carrying this child in your womb for 9 months. And so breastfeeding is important for bonding, but also because the nutrients in other milks, look, cow's milk is designed for the calf. Goat milk is designed for the kid. And so human milk is designed for the human baby. And even when you look at the compositions, look at this table right here. When you look at the composition of human milk, the composition of cow's milk, and the composition of goat milk, they are very different. It's only probably carbohydrates that is similar, but look at calcium, look at protein. Human milk has much less calcium, much less protein than these others. That's because, first of all, even the type of protein that is in human milk is different from that which is in cow's milk. We have more of what we call whey protein, and the cow and goat has more of casein, because their young ones need that. It's probably because, they detach quite quicker than we do from their young ones. And so the excess calcium is probably for their bones and, their their growth, they probably need a lot more than that compared to humans. Also, when it comes to protein, it's much difficult to digest casein for us human beings than it is for the animals. And so that's why you have more protein in goat milk and cow's milk than in human milk, because we humans need more of the simpler protein called whey protein. It's more watery in nature and not as thick as cow or animal milk. And so already these are just some of the nutrients that are available. If we had to really exhaust the list to look at all the vitamins and minerals, you see quite a lot of differences between a cow's milk, goat milk, and human milk. And so this is just to tell you that human milk is different. It has more of fat, as you can see, more of fat than any other. And that's because the fat there is also special fat for brain development. For example, it has what we call EPA, a special kind of fatty acid that helps with brain development, as well as what we call DHA. You can Google these, it's quite long terminologies that you may not want to know, but just remember it has special kinds of fat that help with brain development. And so when we say breastfeeding helps with brain development, it's the content of that fat. I know that you can argue to say, but these other milks have been done to mimic breast milk. They have tried. They've even added EPA, they've added DHA just to try and mimic breast milk. But really, I feel it's best to get it in its natural form. Any vitamin, any mineral, even when we talked about supplementation last week, supplementation is because you are just adding to the diet. But if we have to rely on supplements, on chemical vitamins, because you can actually create even vitamin A in the lab. You can create folate in the lab. That is being done, but why not get it in its natural form, in a form that the body already will recognize? And so that is why, again, breast milk becomes more advantageous. But also because breast milk is at the right temperature. It is also free. When we look at costs, let's be honest, it is more cost effective to breastfeed than it is to buy these other products. Because ask yourself, are you going to sustain giving your child formula? I've seen situations where a couple, a family says, yes, we are going to give our child formula. That's what we've decided for whatever reason. Then along the way, you start either rationing or saying, okay, no, instead of 8 scoops, I think let's just put 6 scoops. Or let's just reduce the number of times that the child eats. All that comes into play and becomes difficult now. The child does not receive the nutrients that even the cow milk can produce. If not that, it's the water that we are using. Just the other time we were talking about the benefits of water, but also the challenges of our tap water. You're using tap water which is contaminated. You're leaving your baby with a caregiver who probably has poor hygiene and may not know how to clean the bottles nicely. Because when you scrub those bottles, those lines that form on the bottles, it's an opportunity for germs to sit in there. Now, this is a baby who's probably still getting his or her vaccines and has not fully built their immunity to fight off infections. And all that now creates an opportunity for them to start having diarrhea. And the more diarrhea they have, the more nutrients they lose. And hence you find that you go to the under 5 clinic and the child's growth does what? Starts to drop. We've just talked about immunity. Breast milk provides the first immunity of the child. That yellowish milk that comes out, whatever time it comes out. I know for some, it may be a struggle to start to get the milk to kickstart. But when it does, the child receives its first immunity. That yellowish substance that comes out before what you would know as milk, which is white in color. That yellowish, colorless like substance that comes out is the first immunity of the child. So it protects the child from all kinds of infections. I know in some traditions they say you need to throw it away. And guys, no, that is rich in a number of nutrients, rich in antibodies that will actually help to protect this baby from a number of infections. And also studies have shown children who have been breastfed are less likely to have allergies later in life. allergic reactions, like they can't take peanuts, they can't take soya. You find that as a child grows, some of these allergies start to kick in. Insects, like for example, if in kubala, they can't eat, it gives them whatever, or others, it's buka buka, they don't, all that can come in when you don't breastfeed your baby. So then I asked the question earlier, what challenges are we facing in breastfeeding? Because we've noticed that breastfeeding has reduced. In my opinion, I'm thinking, could it be because we do not know how to breastfeed our babies, or maybe we didn't know the advantages of breastfeeding? Or for younger mothers, it could be that you feel your breasts are going to drop. You feel you're going to waste too much time. You feel it is time consuming, let's be honest. It is a difficult decision to breastfeed. But the benefits that come with it, you've literally set this child, you've built, like the way we build a house, you have built a solid foundation for this baby. Just breastfeeding from 0 to 6 months. So let's talk about that. Let's start with how the baby attaches to the breast. So let's assume this is your breast, right? You're a new mom, this is your boob, and you're getting ready to breastfeed your baby. How does the baby attach to the breast? So this is the nipple. This is that, I know it's white here, but let's assume this is that dark brown part of the breast called the areola. This is the nipple, this is the areola, right? And this is the rest of the breast. So oftentimes, and I've observed this, because there are times when I'm on the bus and you see this woman attach the baby to the breast, but the baby is only on the nipple. You find the baby sucking here, and the child will suck, and there's even that sound, that is not a sign that the baby is well attached. That is a sign of poor attachment to the breast, and it indicates that the baby is probably just sucking from the nipple. And when this happens, the baby gets frustrated, especially a very hungry baby, trying to suck, and all the child is doing, and with time, the baby starts to wail, crying out, because they are not getting what they want. Imagine sucking from a straw. Drink na ipwaka, but you're sucking from that straw, and you're just sucking in air. It's basically just droplets of milk entering your mouth, and it feels bad, like, oh no. You want to get good flow of milk entering your mouth, especially when the baby is very hungry. That can be very frustrating. So here is how you need to actually do it correctly. So imagine this is the baby's mouth. The baby needs to attach on that brown part of the breast. The whole mouth needs to be there, not at the nipple. So if I'm the baby, I'm not going to do this. I'll have to, and how you know that the baby is well attached, the baby should have like that plunger that we use to unclog the bathroom drain. So it should have that kind of grip on the breast. When the child is breastfeeding, the child's cheeks will be moving in and out, in and out, in and out. But when you start hearing that sound, it means the child is not well attached to the breast. And so you want to see a situation where the child lip is down, like that. Okay? So that is the right way to breastfeed, because the milk ducts, meaning those pipes that remove milk from the breast, are around here. And so you want the child's mouth to grip those, to press those pipes so that the milk gushes out of the mouth. Now, I know you're a mother who could be saying, but Belinda, I have tried all that you're saying and milk just doesn't come out. It could also be that you are not attaching the child to the breast long enough. A child is supposed to be at the breast for at least 20 minutes. Allow them to suck. Because when you suck, there is a hormone that is released. You and the child have this special connection that only the two of you have. And so when your child is sucking on the breast, there is a special hormone that is released that relaxes you, the mother, as you look at your baby sucking. And with time, you'll find breast milk will start to flow. So don't be in a hurry. The problem is that we always want quick things. And that in itself frustrates you, the mother, and it also frustrates the baby. So just ensure that attach the baby to the breast for at least 20 minutes. Because in those 20 minutes, they are firstly getting water. After the thirst is quenched, and then now that fatty substance, remember we're just looking at the composition of milk. So that fatty substance now is what comes out, and that's what is the nutrients that will feed the baby. So that fatty substance comes out round about after 10 minutes of attaching the baby to the breast, and the baby continues to feed. And how you know that your baby is full now? The baby will just fall off the breast. There'll be no need to remind the baby to say, oh, number chapwa. No. But what I often see is a mother will put the baby to the breast, 5 minutes. The baby doesn't seem to probably be getting what they want because maybe of poor attachment. The baby starts to cry. The mother does what? Switches to the other breast. Puts the baby on the other breast. The baby is, playing around and starts to cry. The mother is like, why can't she juicy? You get frustrated. But you have to remember that it is a process. It takes time. Allow the baby to stay on the breast for at least 20 minutes, one breast. Then you can switch to the other. The baby will communicate to you if they want more. When they sleep on that breast, just remember which breast you fed them on, and then the next time they feed, you take them to the other breast, so that you are balancing up as well. But remember, the more you attach the child to the breast, that is when milk will be produced. The more there is demand, the more there is supply. We often say breastfeed on demand, meaning when the child wants. Don't say breakfast, lunch, supper. No, the child doesn't know breakfast, not at this stage. So the child at this stage, whenever they want, sometimes it can just be to play. They want their mother because they want to feel that attachment. So allow that to happen. And the more you allow that to happen, breast milk will continue to flow. And as the child grows, you begin to see it flow more and more. Sometimes even when you are away from home, you just look at your nipples and they are wet. And you have to rush home to breastfeed your baby. So now what about the working mothers? Working mothers out there, how do we feed our children? We know the benefits of breastfeeding now. We know that we are supposed to attach the baby to the breast like this and like that. But now I have to be away from home. And that is where planning comes into play. We need to plan better as working mothers. Not that we need to now get formula, not necessarily. For me, honestly speaking, I would rather you continue breastfeeding. And breastfeeding does not only mean having the baby on the breast. You can express the milk, meaning when the baby is asleep, if you have a breast pump or even just with your hand, you can squeeze that milk out. Because remember, we say the more comes out, the more is formed. And so squeeze that milk out, which you can store in nice, clean containers, either maybe cups with lids or nice bottles with lids. Store that milk. It can stay at room temperature for about, I would say 3-5 hours roundabout, or you can actually express the milk and put it in the fridge. Let's say a good 3 days. In the freezer, breast milk can stay for even up to 3 months. So now that you've expressed the breast milk, the caregiver for the baby needs to also know how to warm the milk. You don't put it in a pot and put it on the fire and heat it up. No. That will destroy or denature the nutrients in the milk. You want to put it in warm water. So you heat water separately, and then once it's out of the fire, you then take the container of breast milk and you warm it in the warm water. And when it's warm enough, you know the test that we do. You drop it on your hand. If it feels hot, it is not good for the baby. If it's cool enough, then you can give your baby. Now, what about bottles? I would say in the first 3 months of the child's life, avoid giving bottles because that's your period or your time of maternity leave. And so attach the baby to the breast, because that, I forgot to mention, that also helps with the jaw development. So speech also is well developed when the baby is attached to the breast, because that movement of the jaw helps to strengthen their jaw muscle and also improves their speech when they begin to learn how to speak. And so you want that attachment when you are at home, but when you have to leave the house, then you can start introducing bottles, and there are better bottles out there than others. But you do not necessarily need a bottle. You can also do what we call cup feeding. So cup feeding is where you take maybe an ordinary cup or a paper cup, even better. You make a little hole, like a depression on the paper cup, and allow the baby to drink through the cup, or even just a normal plastic cup which you find at home. But hygiene has to be top notch. Cleaning of these containers needs to be done thoroughly. Boil them in hot water, allow them to dry thoroughly, drip dry thoroughly, and store them in a place where we are not having flies coming and sitting on these products. Store them somewhere where it's dry and where there is no access to roaches, have no access, flies have no access, and even wakwindi have no access. So make sure that all that is well stored to avoid contamination, because this is also a time when it's very easy for that child to start getting diarrhea, and we know diarrhea results in not only water loss but a lot of nutrients being lost. So now others can also say, but Belinda, what about if I'm HIV positive? Can I breastfeed when I'm HIV positive? Yes, you can, especially if you have been taking your medication. It is possible to breastfeed, but I'll have you first discuss this with your health worker. Go to your nearest health facility, let them check your status, and let them also check whether you are capable to breastfeed your baby. So it is possible, provided you have this discussion with your health worker. Possibilities are there, but there's a lot to consider. Have you been taking your medication? For how long have you been taking your medication? What's your viral load? What's your, all those things that may be beyond me. I'm guiding you now to go to your health facility and check that you are able to breastfeed. What about if my child is allergic to lactose? My child cannot take breast milk or any other animal milk. What happens? Or situations where the mother passed away in the process of delivering this child. And such cases are there. What do we do? There are products out there that you can use that are plant-based, formulas that are from soya milk, for example, that you can give your baby. But again, your health facility needs to be aware of that. Another thing we need to talk about is the issue of the rights and protection of our children. In as much as we can talk about breastfeeding and feeding your children right, it is also important that these children are protected. We have been hearing cases of children being raped, sodomized. I think that is a concern because we are basically crumbling that foundation. We can talk about good feeding all we want, but if we are destroying the very soul of this child, if we are taking away their innocence, I think it is pointless. And I feel that's what the devil wants us to be, a broken society where this one's soul has been destroyed, this one's dignity was taken away from them, this one's innocence. Because even the upbringing then, they are brought up with that bitterness, that shame, that disrespect, that, I don't know, it's disgusting. Please let us stop it. Protect your children out there, and let's work as a community to see to it that these perpetrators are locked up.
Way to eat.